who do I want to coach? Like, who is my niche? Who is my ideal audience? And then I realized it was the women like me who had worked really hard to get to where they are in their career. And then they hit a crossroads and they're like, okay, I've worked hard. I don't want to throw away all of my knowledge and expertise, but now I'm a mom. Things look different. My career has to change a little because I don't want to work in the same way. What do I do? And so since then, I've really focused my business on supporting those women on where they go. And the name of my business really came about because what I recognized is that everybody has potential. Everyone has the ability to do great things, but often they need someone to shine a light on that.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Mom Does It All. If you're looking for encouragement, empowerment, and uplifting in motherhood and mompreneurship, this is the show for you. I'm your host, Marcia Spurk, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. In this episode, I talked to Janine Esbrand, lawyer and career coach. She talks about how motherhood changed her career path and how she now helps other moms figure out what their professional life is going to look like after they have their baby. So much good info. Let's dive in. Hi, Janine. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Marta. I'm so excited to be on your podcast. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you guys noticed a little bit of an accent there, so I have to point that out. She is my very first British guest, and I'm so excited because I love accents, and I wish I had all the accents in the world because they're so pretty. And so this will be very interesting here because we will be hearing from a different perspective, right, from someone from a totally different country because we're so used to having Canadians and Americans here. I did have a Brazilian not too long ago on the show too, and that was fun. And so Janine is a lawyer. She's also a coach. And what I want to know to start off with is how you began this journey of starting your coaching business. I know it has a lot to do with you becoming a mom and going on maternity leave. And I also want to know a little bit more what's behind the name of your business. So tell us all.
Okay, great. Firstly, I'm so happy to be your first Brit on the show. I take that as an honor. That's so awesome. Okay, so let's back up and start with kind of how the business started and the name, because then that leads into where we went from there and we got to where we are today. So I decided really young that I wanted to be a lawyer, and I went on like the track to figure out how I needed to make that happen, what I needed to do. And my kind of goal was I really wanted to help people. I wanted to make a difference and all of that. And then I kind of got towards qualifying and went on a mission trip to Africa. So I went to East Africa with a group of Christian lawyers. We went there for 2 weeks. We were in Kenya for a week and Rwanda for a week. But we packed so much in that it felt like longer than 2 weeks. But the work that we were doing was amazing. So we went to prisons where there were people who were on remand for years, like to some people 2-3 years. They hadn't had a hearing. They were just there because they didn't have access to justice. They didn't have anyone to represent them. So they were just in prison, like just waiting for a hearing, and nobody within the prisons cared about these men that were just sitting in prison. So we worked with an organization who went in to provide legal education to let them know what their rights were so that they could exercise them. So that was awesome. And then we went to villages to talk about child protection rights and the importance of like children getting education and things like that. So it was just a whirlwind 2 weeks. And then I came back and I went back to my desk and was working on acquisitions and documents and like chasing people for payment. And I was just like, what am I doing? Like, seriously, 2 weeks ago, I was making a proper impact in somebody's life. And now, yes, I'm helping somebody with their legal documents, but it's just not the same. So then I kind of went on this journey of exploration. Like, what could I do? How could I just can't do this. I do enjoy being a lawyer, but there needs to be more. And so then I came across coaching. And once I realized there was this whole industry around coaching, I realized that I've always been a coach. I've always been that person to really encourage people, try and inspire them, help them to see like what we can do going forward instead of dwelling on the past. And so, I basically dove in. I did my certification alongside my legal career. So I did evening classes, and then I did everything I needed to do to certify. And that was in 2014. And then in 2015, I got pregnant with my first child.
Oh.
And at that point, I was like, okay, I can't build a business and still work 16-hour days as a corporate lawyer. So I parked the coaching for a while. At that point, I was just doing little bits of coaching with friends and friends of friends. And then when I was on maternity leave with my son, after I kind of got settled into motherhood, so 6 months in, because I took a year off, I was then able to focus on the business. And then I was asking myself, well, who do I want to coach? Like, who is my niche? Who is my ideal audience? And then I realized it was the women like me who had worked really hard to get to where they are in their career. And then they hit a crossroads and they're like, okay, I've worked hard. I don't want to throw away all of my knowledge and expertise, but now I'm a mom. Things look different. My career has to change a little because I don't want to work in the same way. What do I do? And so since then, I've really focused my business on supporting those women on where they go. And the name of my business really came about because what I recognized is that everybody has potential. Everyone has the ability to do great things, but often they need someone to shine a light on that. And that's where the coach comes in. And my coaching approach is very much to help people to reflect on what's important to them, but then give them the tools and strategy to implement. And that's where the box comes in. So like almost unpacking the toolbox.
Ooh.
So I put the two together and came up with Lightbox. And that's why it's Lightbox Coaching.
Oh, I love that story so much. And I have to go back into some of the points there that really fascinated me. Recently, I started working as an interpreter here in Denver. And a lot of the work that I do is in courts. And so it's very interesting for you to bring that up because I've been seeing a little bit more, not from the legal side of things, but learning a little bit more from a total lay person. And then to understand like 3 years to be there and not have a hearing and not even know what's going on with you. That's crazy. I see people that have been in jail here for like 6 months. Of course, they've done crazy things and it's not like they're there in the wrong or anything, but it's still crazy to think about that you would be waiting for something and not know what's going on. And you see humans in a very demeaning condition and it's crazy emotionally. And I can totally see why you would go back and be like, what am I doing with my life? So
yeah, it was crazy because the thing is in that part of the world, there is a lot of corruption that happens. So really what would happen is a police officer would pick somebody up off the road or from their house and then say to them, if you can't pay me a bribe, then we're going to take you to jail. And they can't pay. So then they end up in jail. And then they don't have any money. So then they can't get a lawyer. And so we literally would just we went into the prison and there were just men and, you know, they're sitting on the floor, just sitting, just like there's no
infrastructure, no support.
Yeah, it was awful. So I'm, you know, the organization that we partnered with is called Clear International. And I just think the work that they're doing is amazing. They have a small team of lawyers there and they are doing as much as they can to go and support the people who need the help, which is amazing.
Yes, that's incredible. And another part of your story that I really loved is that you started the coaching and then you realized I can't keep this up. You took a break. And then you continued on. Because that's one thing that I see a lot with moms sometimes is that they start something and they get super frustrated that they can't carry it on. And they feel like a failure if they just say, I need to take a break or I need to stop now. But that's just part of the journey is you understanding the different seasons in your life, especially once you become a mom and kind of like reassessing and reevaluating what is important right now. What can I do with my time so that I don't take time away from my family? So I love that you share that and that you were still able to pick it back up and make it super successful and in a partnership with your lawyer career because you're still working as a lawyer as well.
Yeah, I still freelance as a lawyer. And yeah, it's really important. I think sometimes you can be overzealous in terms of what you're trying to do. But you have to realize that if you've decided on a path, you have to play the long game. I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter, so I have 2 children. So when I was pregnant with my second, I was in denial about how tired I would be. I was like, okay, it's fine. While I'm on maternity leave, I can record all of these podcasts and I can do this and I can do that. And I remember literally there was one evening where I opened my laptop to start recording a podcast and I fell asleep. Like my body was like, oh no, you don't. I'm building a leg today and I'm busy. I don't know what you're trying to do.
Oh my God.
So I literally was like, do you know what? Like, forget it. I'm closing my laptop. And I actually paused my podcast. So I launched it in 2016 and then I had a big gap where I didn't release any episodes for most of 2017 because I was pregnant with my daughter. And then I repicked it up in 2018 when I had more bandwidth and capacity to do it. And it's fine. Like, there's other people that I'll look around and say they started their podcast at the same time as me and they're on like 100 and something episodes. I'm on episode 62, but that's still 62 episodes of content that supported people.
Exactly.
So, you know, play your own game and don't necessarily be worried about a time frame. Just keep moving forward step by step.
Play your own game. I will quote you. That's amazing. I love it.
Yes.
And I feel like because of social media, that's something that I talk a lot about too, is that moms end up comparing themselves so much to other moms. And then they start feeling like they're failing because they see other people doing different things. And that's another thing that we were talking a little bit about off air, because I wanted to understand maybe the differences in like the business mom entrepreneurship environment over there in the UK, because here in the US, at least, network marketing is booming. And that's usually what moms that are staying at home with their kids, or maybe they just had a little baby and they still want to contribute financially, but they don't want to go back to work, or maybe they didn't necessarily have a career. They just start with network marketing, and some of them do really well, end up really building something great and retiring their husbands, some kind of like middle ground, and some just keep kind of jumping from one thing to the next and never really finding their thing. And several moms sometimes connect with me and they're like, I've tried several different things. I don't know what I want to do with my life. And I just feel like a failure. And so I wanted you to kind of talk about like, what is the atmosphere over there in England in terms of that, like a mom gets pregnant and what happens, or maybe with the clients that you coach?
Yeah, so we do have network marketing over here. I think the climate is a little bit different, partly because of the way that maternity leave is structured here. So I know that in the States, often people will get like between 6 and 12 weeks, and then they have to think about going back to work. And many of them will say, there's no way I'm leaving my baby that early. And then they decide, I need to figure out something else. Whereas here, we tend to have, you can take up to a year maternity leave. Not all of that time is going to be paid. And depending on your organization, you only might get paid for like 6 months or like less time. Or some people have great packages and they get paid for most of their maternity. But that means that you have a lot more time to just spend with your baby. And also the point at which you're considering going back is when your baby is just about to be a toddler, which is very different from a newborn stage. So many mums will decide they are going to go back to their career and go back to what they were doing before, or they might use it as an opportunity to do something different or start a business. When people do start businesses, there are people that go down the network marketing route, like companies like Arbonne and Forever. Those are ones that I've heard a lot about. But also I feel like I've heard a lot of people kind of exploring upskilling and learning things like coding and building websites and particularly social media marketing and social media support. So there's a company called Digital Mums. I don't know if it's made it over to you.
I haven't heard of it. Yeah, I don't know.
So this company, it basically trains you on social media how to run campaigns, how to set things up. And then they allow businesses to hire somebody who's going through the program as their social media marketing manager. And then afterwards you get a qualification, and then you can go out and freelance as a social media manager. So I think people are looking at that. They're looking at the change of the landscape and saying, how can I use what I did before and move it into a business? So if you're someone who had a marketing background, then going into digital marketing and learning all of that would make sense for you. So I think here people are exploring different things. And one of the things I like to say to my clients is, before you even take a step, before you even start jumping into something, let's do some work to figure out what's really important to you in terms of the lifestyle you want to lead, how much time you want to spend with your children, what your values are, and what really lights you up. So what are you good at? So we do a lot of work up front on unpacking that, so that when you then decide on your path, it's a path that's well aligned with you as a person. So you're not going to find yourself 6 months down the line or 12 months down the line saying, I've just like invested all this money and I'm hating what I'm doing, or I've just moved into this role and it's just more of the same and I'm miserable. Like, let's not do that, because then you're just wasting time jumping around when we could just spend time up front getting really clear on what's going to light you up in this phase of your life, because things might be different from before. I was really set on becoming a partner in a law firm before I had a baby, and then being a mum just changed my perspective. So then I had to assess, okay, now what's important to me? And it was different from what it was before.
Yes.
So I think for mums particularly, it's important to do that work.
Yes. And I couldn't agree more. I had just the other day, this mom messaged me and she was like, I am about to finish, I think she was going for a pharmacy school or something like that, but in Brazil. And she messaged me and she said, and I'm pregnant. I got married not too long ago. And I'm like, all my dreams of starting a family are beginning, and I'm finding myself not really wanting to finish this. Like, what is the point? Because now I'm pregnant, I'm starting a family. What do you think I should do? And I'm like, whoa. It's a lot of responsibility for me to give you this advice. But thinking back to myself, and it's exactly what you were just saying, before you have a baby, you have ideas of what you think you will want. And then you have the baby and it's like, oh, I don't know if this is what I want. And especially for me, in my case, was being a stay-at-home mom, because we have that, idea of the glory of just staying home, taking care of your family. And sometimes we end up thinking that, no, I do really want to go back to work. I kind of want both a little bit. Is it possible? Is it not? And then you don't understand that your mind is going to change, because once you become a mom, many things change, right? But you have to be in that situation to actually understand. And I love that you, being a mom, going through that, now helping women, you know that things change, and then you can help them in that situation of like, let's figure out exactly what you want or what you will probably want, so that 6 months down the road, like what you said, you're not going to be like, I hate this, I don't like it.
Yeah. And also I encourage people not to make rash decisions really early on, because not only do you change, but your baby changes, right? So if you're making a decision based on how you feel when you have a newborn, it's very different. Like, when I was considering going back to work, I was like, I don't want to leave my precious baby. Oh, I don't want anyone to look after him. And now he's a toddler. I'm like, when can we take him to nursery?
Yes.
He's driving me insane. So I'm like, I need to go to work. I just can't cope with this. And so it's the same baby. It's the same mom, but we're in a different phase. And so I would suggest, if you are thinking, okay, I want to stay home with my baby, I would suggest that you think about ways that you can keep yourself active in terms of networking, or like doing stuff, maybe freelancing or a few projects here and there in your field that can keep you kind of in the game, as it were. So that if you decide in a year or 2 years time that you want to really go full at it, you've been doing some things along the way. That means that you're not starting from, where you feel like you're on the back foot, or you feel like you're completely out of sync with what's going on in the business world. That's something that you can do. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could just be, okay, every now and then I'm going to, attend an event in the evening when the kids are in bed and my husband or my partner can look after them. Yeah. Some stuff like that, just so that you don't feel like you're completely out of touch when you decide when you may decide to go back into the working world or building a business.
Yes. And I love the point that you made, especially for first-time moms. You don't realize that after a little bit, you might not be as attached to your child as you were in the beginning, and you will actually want that break. And I feel like some moms feel guilty. Most moms feel, the famous mom guilt of, hey, I don't want to be with this child for that long anymore, but I have to because I'm a mom and I'm supposed to be so excited to be here. But then the feelings change. And I love that you pointed that out, because it's just the way it goes for most moms, maybe not for all moms. Yeah. And it's okay for you to want to have something for yourself and take that break. And I love that you said that.
Yeah. And also, like, what popped into my mind, I was having a conversation with a friend the other day and saying, like, that saying that it takes a village to raise a child is so, so true. And it's not just about, it's not just about passing your children off to other people. It's about your mental state and health. Like, if I'm going to be with my children 24/7, I am going to go crazy, and I'm going to lose my patience. And I know that about myself. Yes. So if I need to either send them to, a family member for a while or someone else, that whole village mentality, I think we've lost a lot along the way. And as mums, we're just like, oh no, I need to be with my children 24/7. Like, that's not how we were raised. Like back in the day, our grandparents used to have people helping. Like, you used to go to auntie's house, or you used to go to someone else's house. And there's a reason for that. It's not just because they were going out to work. It's so that you can have some time to fill yourself up and like just regroup, so that you can then go back into being in the mum zone and doing it in a way that doesn't have you feeling frustrated. So I'm a big advocate for, even if you do want to stay home with your kids all the time, you still need to have time for you.
Yes. Yes, 100%. And it's so funny because just yesterday I was watching a video of a mom that was interviewed on TV that I actually interviewed on the podcast. And I was so excited for her. And I was watching, and they were saying just that, how today's society is kind of like unrealistic, how isolated we are. And that's why we struggle so much, especially as moms and as parents, because before we lived in tribes, we lived in big communities. You weren't all day, every day, stuck in one place with the same people. It was a lot more dynamic. And now we struggle and then we feel guilty, but it's because it's not really how it's supposed to be. We need other people. It does take a village.
You totally need other people. And we're in a phase now as well where it's almost, I don't know how it is over in the States, but here it's like you have to make an appointment with a friend. Like you have to schedule it in the diary because everyone's so busy. So that there's never that element of someone's just going to pop by your house. You can just drop by, like you're feeling crazy. So you're just going to go to someone. You have to be like, oh, can I put an appointment in for 2 weeks time to see you? And so we lose that element of just being able to, like, if you're stressed out, going to find someone to help you.
Exactly. Oh, that's so true. That's so true. And sometimes you even have to reschedule because, something happened. It's work or it's kids. And yeah. And I love that you said schedule in the diary. That is so cute. I just had to say it.
Calendar. I have to say calendar.
Yes. I love it. Well, and can you give us just a little bit more of like the step-by-step that you go through with your clients, just to have a general idea, and the different programs that you have? Kind of let us know how you work in case someone is listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, I am lost. I need that help.
Yeah. So the first thing is I have a career kickstart guide that I recently released, and that really takes you through the four-step process. It really starts with figuring out what your vision is. So your vision for your life. And when I say your life, it's thinking about all aspects. So emotionally, how do you want to feel? Financially, how do you want to be? Like in community-wise, how do you want to be? How do you want your work and your family life to look in an ideal world? So we start with that. So you kind of start painting a picture of what you would love life to look like. So then once you've done that, you know what your vision is and what would be the ideal. Then we dive into what are your values. So for you as an individual, what's important to you? It takes some time to kind of think that through, and people don't always think about that because sometimes your values shift. So we do that. And then once you figure that out, it's like, okay, now we need to go out and we need to think about what your idea is that you want to pursue and validate it. So sometimes people will be like, okay, I have my values, I know what's important to me, and I think I want to do this. And then they will just go down a path and do that. But I recommend let's validate and test the idea. So if it is a business idea, like you can do experiments, like small things that will give you an idea as to whether this is actually what you would want to do. And then on the business side, instead of just saying, okay, I want to go for this type of role, you can do informational interviews and speak to people who are already doing it so that you have a lot more insight in terms of what it actually looks like to do that. And so once you've done those experiments and you figured out, okay, this is probably a path that I want to follow, then I will then dive in with the client and say, okay, let's map out the strategy and let's go full force and make it happen. And so it's really a process of introspection, and then afterwards it's like, okay, I know what I want to do, and now I'm going to go ahead and execute it. So there's a few different ways that I work with clients. So on an individual level, I have like a 3-month coaching package, which is called the Career Kickstart Coaching Program, and that's where I go through that process with clients over the course of 3 months. And then I have a membership community, which is a monthly membership for a group of women, and this is more for the person who feels like they need that support, but also community. So we have an online platform where people can access trainings around the topics we just talked about, and then also a community of other like-minded professional women who are also going through a similar transition. Some are starting businesses, some are going back to corporate and figuring out the juggle. And so it's just a great place to be able to pour into those members and see their progress over time. And then I also work with organizations to help them to support their women coming back. So if women decide to go back, one of the things that's a challenge is that organizations aren't necessarily as flexible as they could be, or are not as accommodating, and don't recognize that the woman that went on maternity leave is not the same woman that's coming back to you. And so if you can give her the right amount of support in in the first few weeks and months that she's back, you're likely to keep her, than her feeling like this totally isn't possible. So I run a course for corporate called the Smooth Return course that they can put their employees through, and then generally do workshops and other individual coaching for them as well.
Wow, that's amazing. I love how many different options you have. And for the women that, most of them that might be in the US, is it something that they could still access the membership and also do the one-on-one coaching with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first couple members, like my founding members, are both from the US. And one of my ladies, she was actually on her short maternity leave. So like 10 weeks, we started working together. She joined the collective and we helped her to negotiate her flexible return back to work. And then she managed to do that. And she didn't think it was going to be possible. And she did. And then I heard from her this week that she got given a promotion. So she's doing really, really well. And she's in the States. So we have the calls and the activities at different times, and we have replays so to match time zones. So we have a mix of people from all over. So yeah, if you're in the States, it's definitely something that you can access and get involved in.
Amazing. Oh, I love all the different options. That's awesome. So can you tell us how to reach you, how to find you?
Yeah, sure. So you can reach me on my website, which is www.lightboxcoaching.com. I also have a podcast called the Careers Beyond Motherhood podcast, where I interview different women about their experience with their careers beyond motherhood.
Yes.
So if you want to check that out, we're on iTunes and you can also access it through the website. And if you want the Career Kickstart Guide, you can go to lightboxcoaching.com/kickstart, and then you can download that guide that will walk you through the process we discussed earlier.
Perfect. And I'll have all those links on the show notes as well. Thank you so much, Janine. I loved our conversation. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy you tuned in today. I hope you got encouraged to find your career path after motherhood. And don't forget to connect with Janine. The links are in the show notes. Until next time, bye.